Pete'sTools.com.
G'day guys, silly old Get with you here again. What's he going on about today? Wow. If you're new to welding and you don't want to spend any money like me, if you watched any of my other videos, you know I'm as cheap as chips, Pete. If you don't want to spend any money, do you really have to buy a $200 machine, or can you get away with like a $20 or $30 machine off eBay, an old second-hand buzz box? Anyway guys, that's what this is about. Do we need a new one, or can we get away with an old one if we're just starting to learn to weld? Anyway guys, same as usual, you like my videos, subscribe, drop me a like, drop me a comment, and let's get into it. So guys, if you've seen any of my other videos, you know I got given this old buzz box. Someone was going to chuck it away, so instead of me taking it to the dump, I thought, oh, why not? We'll do a little bit of a restoration on it and see if we can get it going. Sure enough, kicked it on the guts, it fired up and away it went. All I've done to this is just change the plugs on here because it had pre-wired stuff, and I don't like the stuff that's already pre-wired. I like the plugs that you can plug in and out. And then about 2 months ago, guys, I bought this nice little machine here. It's a 3-in-1 machine. It's an arc and it's a MIG and a TIG. And I haven't used it on TIG welding yet because my TIG welding is even worse than my MIG welding. But I thought today what we'll do, guys, is just compare the arc welding function on this to the arc welding function on this. $200 for this machine, which is cheap as chips anyway because it's a multi-function machine. Or 20 or 30 bucks for one of these old machines. I'm sure you can buy them on eBay and that for 2/5 of FAA. Anyway, let's get into it. See if they both weld and see if there's any big difference between the two. So guys, the first thing I'd say is this multi-function machine here is about half the weight of my old buzz box, so I don't know if that tells us anything. It can do 3 times as much at half the weight, but sometimes the weight thing can be a good thing or a bad thing. Sometimes the old gear, the heavier it is, the better it is. That's what I find anyway. Got a nice digital display here, as you can see. We can either go arc like we're on now, we can go down to lift TIG, or we can go up to MIG, which is all very well and nice. But if you're learning to weld, I would start with stick welding. Arc welding is probably the easiest way to go, and it's going to be the cheapest way to go to start off with as well. And pretty easy to control, guys. Just the knob here, just sets your current here from 20 right up to 165. See that there, guys? So it's pretty basic to control. Now if we have a look at the old buzz box here, guys, you can see it hasn't got all these bloody controls here because, like I said, this is a 3-in-1. This is just a stick welder. All we've got here is a connection here for your welding torch here, and a connection here for your earth. So it's easy peasy lemon squeezy. Instead of a amp knob here, over here, we have a bloody old dial-up scale like this. Can you see that, guys? Have a look up here. And it's actually mechanical, and you turn this big handle and it moves an arm in and out of the transformer, and it gives you either higher amps or lower amps. This is 140 amps maximum. So it's quite antiquated really, see that? Up and down. But it gets the job done just the same, I reckon, anyway. So if we kick this in the guts, guys, what does this sound like? Yeah, that is just a brrrr, just a buzz, because this is a transformer and this is non-transformer. So this is basically done with all sorts of whiz-bang circuitry, and this is an old-fashioned transformer model. Now because I'm only welding 4 or 5 mil, guys, what I'll do is I'll set this up to 100 amp, and then we'll set the new one welder up to 100 amp as well, and then we'll zap it, and then we'll see what happens. Yeehaw! So we want 100 amp. Bend that over. Shit, that's heavy, Pete. Oh. So we're at 140, we want 100. See the little arm going up there, guys? That's what they had before they had electronics. So that's set at about 100, guys. See that there? Whoo, keep your feet on the ground, that sucker. So what I'm using here, guys, is a 2.5mm GP general purpose welding rod, which is all you're going to need for this light stuff. And we'll kick the old girl in the guts and see what she can do, eh? Alrighty, guys. No, now this is not going to be perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but we'll give it a crack. What we'll do, guys, is we'll just try and run a bit of a bead along here. Way too hot, Pete. So we'll turn it down a bit, guys. We'll go to 80. We're at about 80 amps now, guys. Still a little bit too hot, I think, guys, for that thin plate. About 70, guys. Still blew a hole in it. So you can see, guys, even the old welder at 70 amps, I thought we might need to boost it up a bit because she's getting pretty old like me, but it still welds right at 70 amps. Mind you, we're only welding really thin steel. As you can see, guys, a blind man will be pleased to see my welding, but my welding is not the object of the exercise. It's just I want to show you the difference between a new and an old machine, if there is any difference, and the difference between like a $25 machine and a $200 machine. So if you're sticking shit together in your garage with that, you're going to be happy with that, because it's not going to fall to bits and no one's life depends on it, so we're all good. So what was that? That was about 65 amps. Now let's get into the new machine and we'll set that up 65 amp and we'll see what that does. So what we'll do, guys, is we'll use the same stick holder on the same earth and we'll just change it over to the new machine. So we've got the stick holder end, we want that on negative, and we want the earth clamp and we want that on positive. Righty-o-ty, coyote. Let's get rid of this sucker and we'll see what happens. So if we kick this in the guts, guys, and let's start at, say, well, the other one was 140 amps. We started at, we ended up, what, about 65. So if I go maybe 125, 130, go 130 and we'll see how that goes. Stick a welding rod in like so. Kick it in the guts, Pete, see what it does. Oh, let's see if we can weld something, eh? Way too hot, so we'll turn it down, guys. Go down to 98. Still burning holes in it, see that, guys? Go down to about 80. Starting to look a little bit better, guys. So if we turn it down to 65 like the other one said it was, what do we get? 65 amps. See that, guys, 65 amps doesn't nearly seem to have as much grunt as 65 amps on that other machine. So I don't know if it's because we've got more control on this machine or less control on the other machine, but there's definitely something a little bit different. I think that older machine is just sort of guessing how many amps it's giving you, if you ask me, because I think you've got more control here. And you can see that for the simple reason that this is quite thin plate, it's only about 4 or 5 mil. and we're not blowing holes in it down this end like we were up here. So obviously you can adjust the amps better on the modern machine than what you can the older one. That's just my theory anyway. So guys, old machine or new machine, what do you reckon? I reckon the new machine, guys, you can dial it down, especially if you're trying to weld thin metal. And the older machine is sort of more like ballpark figure, you know what I mean? It just spurts out a whole lot of power and you can back it off, but you can't really tell how much power it's using. And I think the old machine just gives you a whole lot of power. You can back it down, but you can't tell exactly how many amps that you're getting into your weld, which is not a problem if you're welding rusty metal and all the rest of it. If you just want to weld something together on the farm or on the ranch, that's what these things were designed to do. Just weld rusty steel and just all you want to do is stick it together. But if you want to have a bit more finesse in your welding, not that I can weld to save my life, but if you want to be a bit more refined, I think the newer machine's the way to go. But either way, you know, 200 bucks is no big deal. Anyway guys, that's enough bullshit for me today. Same as usual, if you like my videos, subscribe, drop me a like, drop me a comment. If you want to see a review on this machine, check up this side. If you want to see the first time I ever learned to flux core weld, check over the other side, guys. See ya!
Pete'sTools.com